All right, now you should see the beepy red dot. So today we're talking about Martin Luther King Day, which was on Monday. And today we are going to be talking about it because it is an important part of our history and the way we treat other people. And today we announced that we are going to be celebrating Kindness Week next week. And we are going to be doing some special activities for it. So Joey, we're going to talk about lots of squishy, gushy, happy heart stuff next week when you come back and hang out with us. So this is all part of it, is like being kind to other people and treating other people with respect. And so that is why we are going to be revisiting Martin Luther King a couple more times this week. And today we are going to start by reading a story. And can you guys all see my screen? Okay, I'm going to put it in present. Miss Kasha, do you want it in present mode, or are you guys good?
Present mode makes it easier.
Okay. Ooh, letting another friend in. So we're going to put it in present mode. And today, Miss Margaret and Miss Kasha are going to help us read our activity together. And then we are going to answer a couple of questions. So if you guys are ready to go, just give me a thumbs up and we will get started. Okay.
National Geographic Kids, Martin Luther King Jr. Who was Martin Luther King Jr.? Can you imagine a world where laws kept black and white people apart? Where black children couldn't swim in the same pools as white children? Or go to the same schools? A place where laws made it hard for black people to vote? Or where a black person had to stand up on a bus so a white person could sit down? This world was real, and it happened in the United States.
So our word to know on this page is civil rights. The rights that people in the U.S. have to be treated equal. Yeah, just go.
Martin Luther King Jr. worked hard to change rules so they would be the same for whites and blacks. He didn't do it by fighting. He helped change unfair laws by making people think. He did it by making people feel. He did it with his words. Lots of black people and white people helped Dr. King protest those laws. This made many people angry because they didn't want change. But in the end, the protesters won and the rules changed forever.
So the word to know here is protest. To say you don't agree with something. And the picture up on the right is a group of protesters.
Growing up, Dr. King was born in 1929 in Atlanta, Georgia. He was named after his father. He was called ML. Small but strong, ML rode bikes with his brother and sister. ML's father was the minister of a church. He taught his children to stand up for what is right. He taught them to speak out against what is wrong. He taught them that all people deserve justice, which means that they should be treated fairly.
So Martin Luther's boyhood home was on Auburn Avenue in Atlanta. And it's a museum now. It's open to the public. You see a picture of it there. And then the other picture you see is Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s father.
So fun fact that's not in this is that Martin was actually not born named Martin Luther. He was actually born named Michael. Dad later changed both of their names.
When he was 6, Martin Luther's best friend told him he was no longer allowed to play with ML. Why? Because ML was black and his friend was white. Segregation laws were meant to keep Black people and white people apart. They kept kids apart too. ML felt bad. Why wasn't he good enough to play with his friends?
So the word to know is segregation, keeping someone or something apart from others. And the picture you see on the right is the movie theater, and they had separate entrances for Blacks and whites.
ML's mother told him he was just as good as anybody else. And she told him the world was wrong. He wiped his tears. Then ML promised that one day he would change the world.
So Martin Luther King Jr. received the Nobel Peace Prize, and that's the it looks like a coin. It's a medal. It's a Nobel Peace Prize medal. He was 35 when he received it. And so the word to know is Nobel Peace Prize. It's an important award given for outstanding work towards peace.
Martin Luther King Jr. was a boy in the late 1930s. Many things were different from how they are today, like transportation, the cities were different, money was different, like candy bars cost only about a penny. I'd be in trouble with that. US events were different. They had the Great Depression going on. Many people didn't have jobs. Toys and free time looked different because mainly children played board games and listened to programs on the radio. School was even different. Times were really tough, and people had to have their kids working instead of going to school, and they didn't have shoes or money to buy books or clothes in order for them to go. A way with words. ML grew up listening to sermons in church. He learned how powerful words can be used to help people understand ideas. When ML was 14, he entered a speech contest. How old was he, Kasha? That's a key there, guys. He was 14 years old when he entered the speech contest. He put his anger about the unfairness of separate rules for white people and Black people into words. He made people think. He made them feel. The judges loved his speech, and he won at 14.
Yes, like Miss Margaret mentioned, he was only 14, so younger than you when he won the speech contest. Remember that number 14? So our word to know here is sermon. It's a long talk usually given in a church. Some people call it a homily. So that's one of the words they want you to know from this story.
On the bus ride home from the speech contest, the driver told ML and his teacher to give up their seats to white people. ML had to stand for 2 hours. He was mad, but he didn't say anything. He knew he could be arrested, hurt, or even killed if he did.
So back then, white passengers could sit in the front of the bus, and Black passengers had to sit in the back or stand. And if a Black passenger was sitting down, he would have to give up his seat, he or she, to a white person.
ML worked hard in school. He finished college when he was 19 years old. He moved to the northeastern US and continued in school. He wanted to be a minister like his father.
Now, a fact here is that ML skipped 2 grades in high school. So he started college early at just age 15. Normally a student would start college when they were like 18, maybe sometimes 19 years old. So he was very, very smart.
In 1952, ML met Coretta Scott and fell in love. They got married and moved south to Alabama. There, ML worked as a minister. By 1955, he had gone as far as you can go in school. He had earned the title doctor. Now he was Dr. King.
And on the right, you'll see a picture of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Coretta Scott King. And this picture was in 1956.
The Kings moved back to the South to work for equal rights. They saw that not much had changed for Black people there. They still couldn't swim in pools or go to school with whites. They still had to stand on buses so white people could sit. In Alabama, Dr. King had a chance to help. A bus driver told a woman named Rosa Parks to give up her seat to a white person, but she didn't get up. Rosa Parks was arrested because she had broken the law.
So the pictures on this page show up at the top left, it's a white man and a black man, and they have to drink from separate fountains. So the black man was not allowed to drink from the white man's fountain. And the other page, you see a picture of Rosa Parks. She's the one that got arrested because she wouldn't give up her bus seat. And it shows her bus stop.
Lots of people went to a meeting to decide what to do. Maids, janitors, and other working people rode the buses. They asked people not to ride buses until blacks and whites had the same rules. They called it a boycott. They put Dr. King in charge because he had a way with words. For more than a year, black people walked. They took cabs. They even rode mules to get around. The boycott was not easy, but finally people listened. Black people and white people would have the same rules on buses. Unfortunately, many white people did not follow the new rules.
So a boycott means to stop using a service as a way to protest. So the people stopped using the buses and found other ways to get around. And also there's a quote on here from Dr. King. Always feel that you count. Always feel that you have worth.
Dr. King went all over the country giving speeches. He talked about injustice and civil rights. He made people think. He made people feel. And he asked people to join him in protests for change. Blacks and whites marched together to protest bad laws. They went to places where only whites were allowed. A lot of them got arrested. Angry people called them names. Sometimes the marchers were hurt or even killed.
Our word is injustice. It's a behavior or treatment that's unfair. And in the picture, you'll see the marchers. And this is in Montgomery, Alabama in 1965. Dr. King said, injustice anywhere is just a threat to justice everywhere.
Newspapers, television, and radio reported it all. People around the country were mad. They say how bad it was to have separate rules. One person who saw what was going on was President John F. Kennedy. The president wanted to show that he agreed that rules should be the same for blacks and whites. So he invited Dr. King to visit him at the White House.
A couple of words here to point out is peaceful. It's quiet, not disturbed by fighting or arguing. And violence, which is just the opposite, means hurting someone or something. Now, Dr. Martin Luther King had these words: love is the most durable power in the world.
It was August 28, 1963 in Washington, D.C. In the same city where our country makes its laws, a huge crowd of people, black and white, cheered. They had come to stand with Dr. King and protest bad laws. Everyone in the crowd wanted the same rules for white people and black people. So just a key there is this city that he was in was Washington, D.C.
This is where Dr. King has a draft of his I Have a Dream speech. It's located at Morehouse College.
Dr. King's voice boomed as he gave his most famous speech called I Have a Dream. Dr. King's dream was for all people to be treated the same.
Dr. King's words were, I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. And the word to know here, we'll skip that.
The rules did change in 1964 and again in 1965. Laws were now the same for black people and white people, but not everyone followed the new rules right away. For the next several years, Dr. King and many others kept working. Dr. King gave speeches. He planned peaceful protests. He helped others.
This is a picture of Dr. King in 1966, walking black children to Mississippi schools that used to be all white, but the children were now allowed.
In 1968, Dr. King was in Memphis, Tennessee. He was helping black garbage collectors protest for better pay, but angry people did not want change. A man with a gun assassinated Dr. King. Black and white people around the world were very sad. They had lost a man who made them think and feel. They had lost a man who helped make our world a better place with peace and justice. But Dr. King left us his words to remember him by. So one of the key things in this is the whole reason that Dr. King was in Memphis, Tennessee, was that he was trying to help black garbage collectors protest for better pay. That's the reason he was there. You can visit a national memorial to Dr. King. It is in Washington, D.C. There you can read his words about his hope that people could live together peacefully and with justice. You can also stand next to a 30-foot statue of him. It is called the Stone of Hope. From far away, the Stone of Hope looks gray, but up close, it is really many colors. The colors stand for all the different people in the world. That's because Dr. King stood up for our right to all be treated fairly.
Memorial is our word. It's something created to remind people of a person, event, or an important idea. And like Miss Margaret read, this memorial to Dr. King is called the Stone of Hope. Remember that.
All right, guys. So thank you, Miss Margaret, Miss Kasha, for reading that to us. And it's so important that we know that Dr. King wanted fairness for all people. And it started with it based on the color of your skin, but his message works for a lot of different things. So maybe somebody walks differently because they have a disability or, you know, different things like that. All of his work goes to help protect those people. It protects anybody who's different from somebody else. So our first question is, Dr. King won a speech contest when he was how old? Was it? Guys, I still don't know my letters. A, 14, B, 18, C, 9. Good job. I see lots and lots of A's, and you guys are correct. Okay. right. Dr. King gave his I Have a Dream speech in A, Atlanta, Georgia, B, Washington, D.C., or C, Boston, Massachusetts. Yep, and I see lots of B's. You guys are correct. He did it in Washington, D.C., and that's important because that is where our country's capital is, and that's where all the laws are. Number 3, when he was a child, Dr. King could no longer play with his best friend because A, he was Black and his friend was white. B, someone tell me when I don't know my letters. B, he was too poor. Or C, he was always clowning around. He was silly. What do you guys think? A. Yeah, good job, A. I see your A, Joey. Nice work. Yeah, they were different. They look different. Number 4, the day he was killed, Dr. King was in Memphis, Tennessee to A, visit family, B, teach, or C, help garbage collectors. Yeah, I see lots of C's. You guys are right. So he was trying to help people be treated fairly. And our last question, the sculpture called the Stone of Hope is a memorial tomb. A, George Washington, B, Dr. Martin Luther King, or C, Abraham Lincoln. It's B. Good job, friends. B, Martin Luther King Jr. It's a statue for him. So the reason we talked about this so much today is later this week, we're going to do a project that talks about this a little bit further, and it helps us understand why being kind to everybody is important, no matter what is different about each one of us. So as a reminder, not to speed through this, at 10:30, we have Tiger Zoom News today with Clark and Miss Amy. At 11 o'clock, we have a session for virtual only students. So everybody who's here can join us at 11 o'clock. And we are talking about dressing appropriately for both the weather and for certain activities. And then at 11:30, we have our transition team news today. And I think that's it for today. So if you guys have any questions, let me know. And I will talk to you guys soon. Bye, friends.